Hey, how are you doing, everyone? Welcome to another live. We are inside the Radiantly Alive Woman Facebook community, and I am really excited to be here. We are back in home base. If you noticed, I'm back to my normal scenery, but not for long. If you watched my August welcome video inside this community, which I highly suggest you do if you haven't yet, I listed three announcements, and one of those announcements are that I am moving to Costa Rica in less than 2 weeks. Actually, if I look at the date right now, in 10 days. So that's really exciting. So as lovely as this home-based background is, it's not gonna last. Although it is coming to something a little bit more tropical and exciting. Hey, Crystal, nice to have you here. As you come into this live, Crystal's got it going on. Let me know that you're here, that my sound's okay. Sometimes my AirPods are not great. I don't know why, but sometimes they don't connect. So just let me know you're here. Hey, Sabrina, nice to have you. So today we're talking about a really interesting topic. One of the things that I like about this community is we touch into kind of like taboo topics. It's an area that is really passionate for me because there's a lot of questions that women have about their body and about scarring and surgeries and procedures, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody's bringing up these important points to talk about as it relates to our menstrual cycles, as it relates to scars, as it relates to being a woman in general. So something that's really important to me is that we feel open enough to not only ask questions, but take in information that is potentially maybe odd or uncomfortable to talk about, but also support each other in here. When I've done live group retreats and master classes in the past, the like feeling of cohesive like community and support is so beautiful in here. And so this is another topic that potentially can stir up a lot of emotion. It's something that is in a lot of women's minds. We're talking about vaginal scarring due to radiation. So radiation is generally done because there's some sort of cancer in the area, usually like uterus, cervix, some sort of like reproductive cancer in our reproductive organs. So they'll do some sort of radiation, sometime as well as chemotherapy, some sort of combination, one or the other or both, to make sure that we are taking care of this area in a proactive way so it doesn't spread. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about vaginal radiation first, like how it goes down, because I've worked with a few women who've had this procedure before, and I just want to talk about the way that I know it, but I'm sure that over the years and all the women who are in this community and living in all different countries, there's going to be different ways that you are potentially receiving this type of treatment. So there's generally two ways that you can do it that I know of. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure there's many more. But you're inserting something inside of the vagina for an extended period of time or a short period of time, depending on the intensity of the radiation. So if it's a lower dosage of radiation, the instrument is inserted into the vagina for an extended period of time. However, the woman can't really move. She's not supposed to move and, walk around because we want to make sure that the radiation goes into the correct area. There's also a more common one that I know of, which is a higher dose of radiation. The instrument is inserted into the vagina for a shorter amount of time, is delivering a more potent concentration. And then, like I said, you can add chemotherapy on top of that. So those are the two I'm familiar with. But if you have other ones that you know about, you yourself have been through, or someone you know, please do share. It's helpful for me to know all the different methods. I didn't actually know this until I started moving around and traveling and working with other women, that the way that we receive treatment is slightly different. Like, for example, the women who live in the UK generally have lower C-section scars than women who live in North America. And that was something I didn't know until I started working manually and talking to women about their scars. So that's what vaginal radiation is. And obviously, so that is a very intense type of procedure that creates scarring. We actually want to make sure that nothing is spreading, so it kills off and makes sure that cancer or those cells are not spreading. Therefore, it is damaging to the tissue. The way that I work with vaginal scarring is really unique. And I will not be sharing it in extreme detail here because it requires so much care and so much one-to-one kind of contact with the woman. However, like I do in all of these videos, I'm going to share the what to do starting point. I'm actually going to give you my thought process, like what I think, like the idea and the concept of moving forward when I work with my clients, but I just can't share the procedure because it would be doing a disservice to women, because I don't want you to be taking little pieces and trying them out and taking them out of context, which can be very damaging. And I'm in it to help women and support women and offer them answers. And so this is what this video is going to offer. I'm always just looking at my notes here. So what else we got here? What can happen? So what can happen from scarring here? Let me lay out a bunch of different type of symptoms that a woman who has this type of scarring may be experiencing. I always speak in two different sections. You'll hear me like bouncing in and out of physical stuff that could be going on, as well as emotional and energetic. Both are equally important. We can't discount one or say that one is more important than the other. They're equally important. So the things that you could be experiencing physically is anything going on with your reproductive area, like pain, painful sex. Depending on the procedure, there could be any types of pain in and around the pelvic floor, anywhere around it, including the anus, including up by your pubic bone, down into like the groin and quad area, any type of pain, chronic pain, undescribed pain, nerve pain, stuff like that is really, really common. Obviously, so as well as any type of bladder and bowel function could be challenged, maybe temporarily, but unfortunately, it can spread out into longer periods of time, like frequent urination, incontinence things, urgency, challenges going to the bathroom. Maybe it's too slow or too fast. Depends on the woman. These are really common things. Now, if these things are going on in the diaphragm, we may see other type of things going on just above it. So digestive issues, food intolerances, breathing challenges. Breathing challenges are related to a lot of different things. They could be related to our poor sleep. They could be related to our stress and our anxiety. They could actually be related to our digestion processes and how they're not going so well. So everything to me like spreads out into this very intricate web. And it's so important to me that we don't get stuck and caught up in the labels, because when we start hearing all of these things that could go wrong with us, we freak out. And that's normal to be afraid when you hear all of these like horrible things that could be happening. I try really hard in my programs, especially, to help us understand that the labeling is just a word, and it means like not really anything in my book. What I help women understand is that what's going on mostly, especially related to scars, is a stuckness and stagnation problem, meaning when stuff is not moving, when there's not a correct amount of input to start stimulating and changing the area, you get this stagnation problem, which is like still kind of boggy pond, like pond water that does not move. And this creates challenges over time that we can see all sorts: swelling, inflammation, like I said, poor digestion, brain fog, headaches. All of these things can be coming up because of the scars. And so when I'm talking about things physically, I like the labels because as you're going through your mind, you're thinking, yeah, I Googled that. Yeah, I feel like I have that. My doctor said this. My friend said that. And so it's easy for us to place those things. However, I don't necessarily think that they're good, because I want women to understand the truth. And the truth is that everything is workable. Absolutely everything in my world and how I work with women is workable. We just need to get the right context, ask the right questions, and receive the right answers so that we know exactly how to work efficiently and precisely on the problem at hand. We don't get stuck and caught up in all of these labels and like kind of mess. We go right into like what matters. So those are some of the physical considerations that we'll go into more detail in a moment. And then the energetic stuff, the energetic considerations around vaginal scarring in general, specifically when it deals to radiation and in this area, is we're talking about lack or loss of connection with our female body. It could be a fear-based thing, because a lot of the time when we have uterus, cervix kind of stuff going on, our first question is like, why is this happening? What happened? What did I do wrong? Or what did I miss? How did I misstep to create the set of circumstances that led me here? And it's really hard for women to understand, like, nobody really has a good answer as to why it started. And this is really hard for women because when we don't have answers, it's really hard for us to go forward. And so I want to work backwards from that point, help us understand that we have disconnected or detached from our body for very valid reasons. And it could have happened many times in a woman's life, or just one big wham moment, maybe something that was really traumatic or shocking, or a huge event in a woman's life. Or it could be a lot of small things. There's a lot of stuff that happened to women, unfortunately, that we just kind of deal with over time. And these things build up and pile up and create a sense of disconnect from our female body. So the physical is more obvious, energetic and emotional is more subtle, but the main thing is we've really lost connection to the seat of who we are as women. And this is so important that we bring this back. I have all of these things that I'm going to go into in the energetic and emotional section, but really I want you to think about the pelvic floor in the area, especially inside the vagina. This is our seat of who we are. This is our safety place. This is how we express ourselves as women. This really is like our center of creativity. It's our like divine kind of fuel house for who we are. And when this is damaged, either from the scarring and the radiation itself or previously from a set of circumstances, we really want to go into that and make sure that this area gets reinvigorated, enlivened and brought back to its full radiance so that you can feel good, because there's so much stuff that you could feel if you've had any kind of vaginal scarring. I want to bring vaginal scarring into the mix fully. Yes, this video is for vaginal radiation, but I also work with a lot of women who have, for example, had like rectum cancers or colon cancers where they've had to remove a lot of the parts of the anus, or how they're actually eliminating or evacuating. And this creates scarring inside the vagina itself. A lot of women have, they'll like have a narrowing or a shortening of their vaginal canal for a set of circumstances, surgeries, reasons. And these are also, I want you to lump these into the mix. We have our own we have our own video about vaginal scarring as it relates to birth. So yes, if you have scars inside the vagina from giving birth, this video still applies, but there's also a whole video about that as well. A lot of women don't actually know where the scarring is in their vagina. They just know that it happened, and they don't really have much more information around that. So we help, again, this is just one of the ways that we want to bring ourselves back, walk ourselves home into our body. I think that's all I want to say as the entry, as the beginning. Let's go right into the physical consideration. So every single time in these videos, we get three angles. We get physical considerations, emotional and energetic considerations, and then what to do. I'm going to give you a what to do directly as it relates to vaginal radiation scarring, as well as any type of vaginal scarring. I'm going to give you the method of how I think about it. So this is so powerful because this helps you to see that everything is workable, and helps you to see how I'm thinking as a clinical therapist, and help you to kind of open up your world or your eyes if we've gotten tunnel vision and fear-based going on in our life, which is so common because we just get like smashed with a ton of stuff to make us afraid and fearful. So we need to nip that in the butt and get more information and more connection with the truth, with reality. Okay, so physical considerations. Sorry, a bit of nasal drip today. When you eat like a bunch of garbage food on the when you're traveling on plane days, really does a number to my body. Okay, physical considerations, vaginal radiation scarring. I want you to think about where it is. It's in our pelvic floor. That means it's very closely linked into all the other types of dome-like structures in the body. What are the other dome-like structures in the body I'm talking about? I'm talking about the complementary diaphragm. So your pelvic floor is in this kind of shape, and your diaphragm's in this kind of shape. In one moment of time, as soon as you take a breath in, your your diaphragm changes shape, as well as your pelvic floor changes shape. But just so you kind of see this kind of relationship, so pelvic floor, diaphragm, there's a vocal kind of roof of the mouth kind of thing going on here. It's in the hard and soft palate, as well as there's a diaphragm in the throat. There's also another diaphragm in the skull that houses all of your cerebral spinal fluid and helps to divide these compartments and like the dura inside the inside your brain. This is another area. So if you have a problem at the pelvic floor, all of these ding, 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 ding will be connected. Oftentimes, orthopedic people like myself, geeky, biomechanic, nervous system people will include the arch of the foot as well into this whole mix. But the ones in the torso are always connected and always, people always talk about them as being related. So if you have a uh, pelvic floor thing, you're going to have a jaw mouth problem. If you have a pelvic floor thing, you're going to have a breathing problem. And once they all kind of decouple or desync, then we need to bring them all back. And it's not complicated. It's not like we got to first work in the head and then the mouth and then we got to go into the diaphragm. No, if you work one, they all sync back up together because they all have this cohesive, harmonious relationship. Something that helps you to kind of see and visualize the connection through the fascia, the muscles, and the connective tissue is a very beautiful blue man diagram that I point out often here inside this live because it's so helpful for you to get the visual. When you get the visual and you hear what I'm saying, you get like your world starting to form and all of this texture and color, which is really helpful when you're trying to learn something. So as you're listening, I want you to Google Thomas Myers anatomy trains deep front line, deep front line. And you'll see this blue anatomy man if you go to the images section, and he's very lovely. It helps really see how the body is connected and integrated as a whole. In modern Western kind of world, we're taught really compartmentalized. We're taught like, this is your digestive system and it functions just on its own. And this is your bicep and it flexes the elbow and the shoulder. However, that's not true at all. Everything works together. And this diagram, this blue man, helps you to see that. So you'll see that this blue man is very closely linked pelvic floor, deep kind of muscles that hug the spine. It's also the deepest muscles in your hips and in your bum. This is going to come up in our energetic considerations as well. It's a lot of the muscle tissue that is so close into your core. Again, this is going to come up in the energetic considerations. All of these tissues, you'll see it lining either side of the tibia and the fibula, the lower leg bones. It's going to come up and deep into the inner, like most close muscles of the hip and pelvis, start to form your pelvic floor, go up your spine, create your psoas, which was really cool and popular to talk about like 10 years ago. Maybe it is still, but that's when it came out. Then it goes right into your diaphragm. These two things are intricately linked. They've seen this through the fascial connections again and again. This is without a doubt. This same sweeping tissue comes up and it actually comes into your deepest neck muscles. So when people have a whiplash injury, when they've had a car accident or any type of like fast concussion like whiplash, I learned this word in French, so I kind of like stumble on it. This whiplash, this back and forth heavy motion, it really is challenging on the deep neck flexors. It's really hard on them and they need to come back to life. So if you've had a car accident, you could be struggling with your pelvic floor. And then it's actually going to come all the way. You'll see it come into the face and into the jaw. So another thing to think about when we're talking physical, we're talking about the pelvic floor. We're talking about chronic jaw tension, breathing problems. What's wrong with you have a breathing problem? All the stuff we spoke about before, but you're probably really struggling to manage your stress. Like when you get into it, when you start to feel overwhelmed, you start to feel stressed out, worried, anxious, it's really challenging to bring yourself down because you are already kind of like high revving because of the breathing dysfunction that's there. We have to retrain ourselves to breathe correctly, which is one of the things that I'm going to be sharing inside this video. What else? I spoke about tension in the jaw, tension in the hips. This is really common for women who have any kind of vaginal scarring. These things kind of go together. They'll talk a lot about like the jaw tension in their face, or they'll talk about they'll talk about the tension in their hips. They'll talk about, and you'll see it in the way that they move, even in the way that they stand. So you can see this really clearly in pictures. You'll see this like really tight stance in the legs. It looks like they're like kind of holding and like pulling into like the inner part of themselves. They'll look really solid and rigid in their legs especially. So this is really common with women who have vaginal scarring. Another thing that's really common with vaginal scarring in their physical stance is women. This is particularly for women who given birth vaginally and they're having trouble with incontinence or just connection to the pelvic floor in general. Women will take a really like wide stance. You'll see moms, like new moms, doing this a lot. Their feet will be really far apart, like they're making a triangle shape with their legs to kind of create bony stability and instead of actual proper neuromuscular stability. You'll see them like really wide, like kind of like in a horse stance with their knees locked out and trying to create stability like that because they can't find it because of the scarring in the vagina or in that kind of pelvic floor area. So just check to see if that's you as well. It's really, to me, when you're standing in line looking at women in the grocery store and they have these like new babies, it even carries on. I've seen women in their 60s and 70s still adopting this posture because it never got treated correctly. This is a kind of a sure sign. That wide stance, feet are really far apart, knees locked out and kind of just held in that triangle-like shape in the legs. If you want to just check on that. The things that I get into in the grocery store when I'm waiting in line. Okay, so that's I think what I want to talk about for the physical. There's so much more, but that's a good start. It starts to get your brain going, get the juices flowing, start thinking about yourself differently. Now, for the energetic and emotional, I've been touching on this here and again in this video, so let's just dive right into all of it all at once. The main thing is reconnection. We've lost connection with this area of our body, and it's not like we've just lost connection with our elbow. It's like we've lost connection with who we are as human beings, as women. This is the seat of our femininity. This is the seat as a woman of our power. This is where we, are creative. And I don't just mean like this is where you learn how to paint. I mean like, no, literally you push birth out of your body. And it's not necessarily, even if you've never given birth, you have that potential to create life, to create in that area. It's ever present. Whether you are, 10 years old or you're 80 years old. As a woman, you have that just innate within you. All of this is within us. It's like held and contained within us, which is very different to a man's anatomy, which is external. It's externalized. Women, it's on the inside. So on that little note of internalization, the energetic kind of challenges here is all around the like holding of internal challenge, meaning like we are hard on ourselves. We are really, we like to maybe potentially like hold on to anger or store anger or maybe self-implode. There may be like a little self-sabotaging glimpse here and there. That's a really common thing for women who have vaginal scarring. I think it's from the beginning, like I said, women who have endometriosis, who have cervical cancer, who have all like fibroids and cysts. Nobody gives a very good answer as to why these things started in the first place. So that's the first thing that happens to women is there's this cutoff of separation of like, I don't actually trust my body. I don't actually like know what I'm doing. And the truth is like, no, nobody knows what they're doing. But we take that, we hold that burden on ourselves and we don't know what's going on and we don't have good answers. So there's an immediate distrust that happens and it can be so severe and so harmful that we need to bring that back. We need to recreate trust and confidence and feel like we can make good positive decisions for our health. And this is the road that we need to walk when there's been some sort of reproductive health cancer or anything where there's requiring some sort of major surgery where there's a scarring inside the vagina, because it's so important to women to really live from that place, really live from inside our pelvis very deeply. Okay, so what else do I have here? Not to trust. Okay, so let's talk about neurologically. So I'm really deeply trained in neurology and biomechanics. I've done a ton of that. My background is as an athletic therapist. I got my start working in athletics. So my background is actually learning about how different organs or reproductive system in this example is related to certain muscles. And like I was showing you in that deep frontline image, the blue man, there's also a very deep connection between the hip deep rotators, piriformis muscle in particular. If you've ever had piriformis pain, sciatica sciatic pain, any type of like sacral pain, pelvic floor stuff, this is all intricately linked in with your reproductive system. All of these muscles around the deep pelvis are related to your reproductive organs as a woman. So when something is unwell there, or you have scarring there, you have disconnection, you have cancer, you have anything going on in that area, trauma, you will also feel there's some sort of challenge in that musculature. Mostly women will feel tension. That tension can bring on stuff like sciatica, which is not true sciatica. We have misnamed it. But these are usually tension-based things that women are feeling, all because of this neurological connection from reproductive system to deep, like I mean like into the core kind of problem. This is again, like I said, the core, the deep front line is really in the core of our body, and the core problem in this whole situation is the lack of feminine connection, the lack of distrust in who we are as women, that really needs to come back and be reinvigorated. If we go flip into a different direction and we start talking about yoga and Ayurveda and energetic kind of areas in the body, that area, the pelvic floor, the vagina, the oftentimes the G spot, all of this kind of encompassing area is related to our root chakra, which is often called the area where we get to know ourselves. This is our this is our primordial self. It's also often referred to as our place of safety, like our basic needs, our basic functions. If we have damage to that area, we may feel challenged in safety and in our own basic needs, like really kind of struggling to get that sense of feeling. You may have it going on the outside. You may have all the stuff, you in a beautiful home over your head, all the abundance that you need, but the inner state, like the mood on the inside, is of lack, of feeling super just distrusting, no safety, no feeling of who you are as a woman. All of this can come back. I'm telling you this so that you make these connections in your mind, and just to know that I'm saying that all of this is workable. This is not a be all end all, like it can happen or be discussed in other types of practices or Western medicine. No, I'm saying like we can get to work and really transform these things. Okay, that's I think what I want to talk about with the emotion and the energetic. Now let's talk about what to do. I need to give you a bit of background here so that you can understand a little bit about how I think. This same concept is how I think about muscles. This same concept is how I teach women the style of movement that I've created called flushing. This is based and rooted in neurology and biomechanics, and it can be stretched out and like put into anything related to the body and to the mind, which is usually a good sign. When we have some sort of concept or like thought process that only works for one particular thing, it's usually not a well-formed thought. But because I've been working with women for nearly a decade, I've been able to really, and I've also worked with incredible mentors and therapists, and I've taken incredible courses and done my own spiritual and personal development. And so I've really kind of built this thing around all of that. So what I'm talking about, how I want you to understand how I think, is that we need to give something stimulus or input to change. Meaning, if I just don't touch anything, if I leave something somewhere and I don't give any stimulus, it doesn't change in any way, it's in a vacuum, it's probably not going to change. We've all heard the like simple thing of like the real way that you build muscle, like the true way that you're actually building muscle on the inside is you're giving all of these little micro tears so that the body can build it back up again. This is happening everywhere. When you break a bone, say you like crack your bone right through, what the osteoblasts and osteoclasts, what they're actually doing is they're actually carving out a huge amount of bone, making sure that they've got all the almost damaged pieces. They're like clearing tons of stuff away to put new stuff in. So the bone break actually created the stimulus for all of this new growth. There needs to be stimulus somewhere for something to happen. We can't change anything in ourselves, in our habits, and in our mind if we don't have an awareness on it first. If we're just out to lunch and tuned out and, don't know what's happening, but everyone can see it, but I can't, then I can't change it. I don't have the capacity capacity because I can't take responsibility for it and I can't see it in myself. So how am I supposed to transform it? So this is how I want you to think about any type of scarring, actually, but vaginal scarring in particular, because vaginal scarring can be kind of challenging to access. I have methods that I work with and have been working with for a while with women to access this more directly, but there's a lot of indirect ways that you can start to move this tissue. When you move tissue, when you stimulate something, something is going to happen. If you don't stimulate it, nothing is going to happen. So we need to find proper ways to help this area do this. And why I'm saying do this is because we want to rely on the muscle tissue in the area. The pelvic floor is an incredibly rich muscular tissue area. There's actually like 4 levels, 4 different layers in the pelvic floor, all the muscles going in all these different directions to make sure that your body and your organs don't fall out from there. Everything is accommodating for every like footstep, every type of movement we do. It's this beautiful, harmonious relationship that the pelvic floor has, and we want to take advantage of that. We want to make sure that we know how to work that. First, we need to make sure that we know that that area is even alive. We need to even like tune into it. A lot of women have this void, dark, grayed out kind of experience in their pelvic floor. They can't feel it. They didn't know that we should be breathing into it. They didn't know that it should have a certain type of feel or energy or experience or aliveness there. So first we need to bring that in. We need to bring that back. We never got taught that, and it's part of my responsibility, I feel, to help women understand that this area should not be a dead zone. And it definitely should not be something that we are disconnected from. We should be in full control of it. So I want to help women understand that when we give an input into an area, then we start to change it. When there's a scar there and the scar hasn't been stretched, pushed, compressed, any type of like stimulus in it at all, it will remain very fibrotic. It will remain very dense. It will remain like the anatomy textbook says. If you open up a medical textbook, it will remain inert, meaning like dead tissue. It will not remain that way if you give it the correct stimulus, if you know what you're doing, if you know how to interact with it. And the more that we know how to do that, the more that that area can come back to life. If you have scarring in the area and it's inert and it's just like solid tissue, it can create a lot of pain. It's a lot of pulling. It can create a lot of discomfort for a variety of different reasons because that whole area should be like very adaptable. It should be moving, ever changing because you're going to the bathroom, filling up with water from hydration, taking steps, going to an exercise class, sitting down. It should be doing all of these different things, hundreds of different things in the day. And when you have scar tissue there, it's like solid, unchanging, unmoving. And we want to bring that adaptability into it. This will help that area significantly. So this is my thought process. I go through a series of steps with women to help them understand how to actually go about that in a safe, respectful, responsible, gentle way. Because this area, if you do have a vaginal radiation scar, this area is an area that needs to be nurtured because there's probably a longer kind of history there that we need to be aware of. We need to pay attention to, and we need to approach this in a really kind, cautious way. So before I get into what you need to do for the radiation scarring in general, specific to that, let me go through the first step that you need to do with every single scar that you have on your body. I say this every video because I don't want you to miss it. I don't want you to miss this part because it is so valuable, and it helps you to understand and feel what I already know. It helps you to feel the power of scar work. It helps you to actually know, like, whoa, that's holding a lot more than I had thought. I didn't have that on my radar. And I want you to go through that process because I can tell you all day. And as soon as you feel it and you experience it, it's like a whole different world. And you approach and you immediately feel connected to your body. You immediately have just started the process. So what is it that you need to do? Sorry for my nasal drip today. What do I need you to do? I need you to do 3 things. The first thing is the phase 1, as I call it, is the relaxing into phase, meaning get yourself comfortable. You're about to do something really important and acknowledge the area area that may be a place of suffering, of loss, of heavy emotion, of pain. So you need to sit or lay. Be somewhere comfortable, your bedroom, your living room, your sofa, wherever, something where you can spend a bit of time. Don't do this 5 minutes before you have a Zoom meeting. Really respect that this is a process and that you're entering something of meaning. You're going to make hand to skin contact, ideally. If that feels like uncomfortable, not right, inappropriate, too scary, any version of like something that went on your head that's a radar, don't do it. If you want, you can just have your hands just cupping the area, like just even just touching your pubic bone is at least in the right vicinity. It's in the right area, and that is a start. Just to move your way towards it is great too. You don't necessarily have to go internal into your vagina to feel, although if you feel comfortable with that, if that feels good for you, please just follow your own advice. Please follow what feels right for you. I don't want to tell you to do something and you do it and it feels super wrong. That would be a horrible move on my part. So I want you to feel it out, whatever feels good for you. And it's going to change from day to day. One day it may be a no, the next day, a week later, a month later, maybe a yes. But how we approach this is super important because you will start to acknowledge, like, whoa, I can't touch my body there. Yeah, I got something that I can work with. I know that there's something going on here now. But we don't know that until we explore, till we ask good questions. And just the act of meaningful touch, not just like I'm slapping on, foundation and lotion and clothes and underwear. I mean, like meaningfully touch your body, like you know that you're about to spend time with yourself in a way that maybe you haven't for a while. So all of that is in phase one. And to just kind of finish that off, you want to close your eyes. You want to tone down one sense so that you can heighten up some other senses. It also helps that internal kind of like inner connection. Then the second thing is gather as many physical considerations as you can. This is feeling into places that feel numb, feel dark. The whole area in general may feel dark. There may be hypersensitivity. There may be nausea. There may be feelings of anything, guilt, shame, disgust, anxious, whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as you're making physical contact and you feel it and you note it. You want to like obviously note and write all these things down as you go through all the effort to do it. But gathering as much physical as you can. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it warm? Is there tension? Can I feel like tension? Even like if going anywhere near that vagina itself, just feeling like how tight your groin muscles are that attach into your pubic bone, this is really common. You'll feel those things are ropey, out of control. So you want to know that. Is one more than the other? If you have vaginal scarring on one side of your vagina that you're aware of, or maybe like one side of your cervix or something that's unique to you, discover, figure out if that feels, if you're starting to connect some dots here. It's so powerful for you to feel that in yourself. Anything physical, puckering, skin coming up, skin stuck down, all of that's fair game. Then the third thing I want you to do is the emotional and energetic considerations. This is without a doubt just a hot spot. There's no way about it. Whether we're talking about the radiation procedure itself, or we're talking about things that have happened to us in the past, which could have had beautiful outcomes. Maybe we're talking about the birth of your children. Still, that's painful and traumatic, and there's a lot of variation and variables and birth plans and all this stuff mixed up into that. But I'm also talking about actual trauma. And they could be small traumas, like being with a partner who maybe forced himself on you, or you couldn't speak up when you wanted to say no, you still had intercourse, or whatever the situation. There's the whole spectrum of that, of course, and every woman has their own life circumstances and events that happen to them. We want these on our radar. This is a delicate area, so you want to be delicate and kind to yourself. Also, we want to honor our timeline. This is so important. We don't want to think like any horrible thoughts about us, because as soon as we start thinking horrible thoughts about us, we kind of freeze everything. Nothing is workable at this point. We want to make sure that we feel that there's a sense of respect and there's a feeling of eventually trying to understand this in more detail. And this is so crucial. Honor your timeline. Don't feel bad about anything that's happened to you because everything that's happened has brought you to this place, to this light. And that's a beautiful thing because you're here, right about to start a transformation journey. So, how I usually break up the energetic and emotional piece here is I go through three phases. The before the radiation or the other type of vaginal scarring, before that procedure, before that surgery. This is a very long phase potentially, especially if you have a long history of disconnect, lots of trauma in the area. Maybe you had 6 kids. All of these things need to be considered, and I want you to grab like your inner dialogue, like the inner feeling, the vibe, the feeling sense, the emotion in that kind of phase of your life. There may be a lot of things, and that's okay. That's normal and something to be expected. During the procedure itself. Sometimes these, like I said, the procedure could be quite short in time, but it's like potent, it's intense. So every single time you get a procedure or a surgery, there's always fear because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. That list of complications that the medical staff read out to you, rightfully so, is a kicker. It's intense, it's scary. Lots of things are going through the mind. There's all these relationship dynamics with people in the hospital, your family, medical staff. All this needs to be addressed and thought of. Feeling, vibe, energy, emotion of the during phase. Last one is the after. Everything from the healing process on to right now, present day. And again, this is another longer phase. Maybe you had your procedure or surgery done most recently, but maybe it's been decades. And we want to just get a sense again of the flavor and the mood of what's going on and in that length of time. This is so, so important that you feel into this because it could very well be the kind of the same as like this before. And we want to acknowledge that we're still dealing with stuff. Maybe we've worked on a lot of things. And like so many women in this group, I'm sure, are on a health process. They're like thinking, they're like health conscious women. And we also want to acknowledge where we're still working through stuff because we don't want to like have a perfection thing on our mind where we need to deal with everything and everything's better and fa la la, we're in kind of like a dreamland. That is not how life plays out. If it does for you, let me know. But the after phase is so important. Grab the energy, grab the mood, grab the energetic quality, the flavor, all of that. What are you saying to yourself? How do you feel about yourself? What are you not doing now? How does that make you feel? All the stuff after. So that's the 3-part practice that you must do with every single scar. Now, if we follow all of that theory that I just laid out around how to give input into an area, okay, let's talk about how we can actually heal vaginal radiation scarring. Like I said, this is a very in-depth thing that needs to be done one-to-one or at least in a group, but with kind of close contact because there could be a lot of things that are gonna come up. So what I want you to think about is how we are probably disconnected from the area. I'm not going to say that you are, but I would love for you to reflect and just acknowledge that you are in some way, big, small, medium, whatever it is. We want to acknowledge that and make that known so that we can work on it. And one of the best ways, the gentlest, most respectful ways to enter the area is by breathing down into it. Pelvic floor breathing, every woman needs this like in their daily life. In my annual program, the Enliven program, we absolutely go through it. It's an entire month dedicated to it. Breathing is one of the keystones in the whole annual program. And every woman needs to learn how to pelvic floor breathe because I'm going to throw out maybe 90% of women don't. And we need to walk ourselves home back into that area of vibrancy, of radiance, of feeling alive. And that's where we start. So a lot of us are breathing shallow in our chest, creating a lot of anxiety, tension, discomfort, swelling, inflammation, heart problems, circulation problems. Or we're breathing sometimes just from the sides of our body, or sometimes like just in our abdomen, like just pushing our belly out. Most people, you can check on yourself now, most people, women in particular, don't breathe anywhere below the belly button, especially if they have a hysterectomy or a C-section or any type of surgery that's low at the belly button or lower, including vaginal scarring. So we need to breathe back into that area. Like I've been saying, the pelvic floor is this incredibly intricate kind of webbing that is very responsive to every single footstep you take, and so is and should be very responsive to every single breath you take. If it's not, we hold tension there, and we can either like squeeze the bejeez out of it, like really wring it out, because we're afraid of like urination. Some women have this like sense that feels like their organs are going to fall out of their body, but when we actually squeeze and hold on to it, we don't do ourselves any favors. We actually want to make sure that we're able to allow input and stimulus to come into the area, and we do that through breathing. So I explain pelvic floor breathing in great detail in the annual program, but I can explain it in a really simple way that most women can feel right quite quickly. You need to stand or sit. Standing is like phase two. You need to sit with me, tall in your body, ideally so you feel like your pelvic floor is just headed like straight down. So it's not like headed forward and you're not like leaning too far forward where the pelvic floor is going back. It's headed like straight down to the ground. Then you got to let your belly go. You got to let your gut out. You got to stop holding onto your tummy. Lots of women hold on to their belly. Lots of women guard their stomach because they feel badly about their weight. They have back pain. They have pain. They have scarring. All these different reasons. Let your belly go. Just let your belly go soft. Now you're going to take breath into your body as if your torso was an empty glass of water. And you're going to inhale as if water is the inhale down into the bottom of your cup. What do I mean? I mean, you got to breathe down into your pelvic floor first. Breath is going to feel like it hits the pelvic floor first and spreads in all directions from there. What should that feel like? As an inhale, it should feel like your pelvic floor is lowering, lengthening, opening, stretching, whatever word you want to give it. All of that's fair game. And you should feel like you're filling up from there. Depending on how deep and smooth your breath is, you could fill it all the way up to the top of your rib cage. Now, because at that point at the top of the inhale, you're a full cup of water, you're gonna, when you exhale, breath is right here. So it's gonna exit from there first, meaning your chest, your rib cage is gonna start to move from this expanded, stretched, open position to come back more towards center. You're gonna start at the chest, and you're gonna let that water come out. Last thing to come and to move is the pelvic floor. I want to be really clear that you're not contracting your pelvic floor, you're not squeezing your pelvic floor, you're not doing a Kegel, you're not doing any kind of like active movement into the pelvic floor. That is later. First, we want to just feel that it can move. Feel that actually breathing into your pelvic brings an insane amount of energy and vitality into the area, and it's incredibly it is like one of the best feelings to feel that that area is alive after it's been probably numbed out or grayed over in some way. So this is what you're going to do as just a preliminary step. And I'm just looking at the time. I know that I went and just chatted forever about this, but it's so important that we understand the importance of our vagina, of scarring in the area. As a woman, this is so crucial to work through this stuff. And most people aren't talking about this. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it with you. I want to talk about all the women that you know. So if you know any women who are interested in this, you know other women who've gone through this, please invite them into this group. Please invite them in to just receive this free education. It's pretty rare that someone comes on twice a week and just dishes out mad amounts of info so that you can feel like you have answers and you have a direction. I would love to work with you in my Enliven program or one-to-one fashion, but if you just take one little piece of information from this video and you just fly with it, I feel really good with that. Of course, I would love to just spend more time with you, but it makes me feel good that you have information that you need. It makes me feel like I've done a part to help women, especially when a lot of women are just kind of struggling. So let me know if you have any questions. Hey, Donna, thank you for being here. Yeah, this is a really good video to watch. I suggest watching it again. I got like I went off the deep end. So I hope that I hope that you enjoyed yourself. And if you have any questions, anyone, type them in. I'll stay here for a second, and if anything comes, like if you're like, whoa, Kendra, that was a lot to digest, I didn't know what to do with that, and you went for a walk with it, you went for a workout with it, you did a little journal, a little meditation, you went did some cooking, whatever you like to just kind of integrate. And you have a question that you want to ask me privately, or you want to have a question that you want to ask inside this community, please do. Please do, because women really benefit from your questions, especially when you ask them here. We all see it, and it helps women go like, oh yeah, I'm not the only one who has this thing. This woman has it too, and she's feeling the way that I'm feeling. And immediately you lift that woman up to feel not alone, which is again so important to me, as you probably know by now. So I don't see any questions or any comments. Tomorrow I am going live on something really interesting: cortisone shots, specifically in the low back. Cortisone shots, punctures. Is it a scar? Is it really weighing down? Cortisone shots are really common. What is it doing to the body, and how does things progress from there? So I'll talk about all that tomorrow. Yeah, doing it tomorrow at the same time, 12 p.m. Pacific time. Please remember that I have a free retreat coming up this weekend. It's free. If you like this video, there's so much good stuff coming all weekend long. I'm trying to give you as much as I can, as much content, so that you really feel like not only have you learned something, but you have actionable steps so that you feel empowered by your life. And if you love all of this, please join us for the Enliven program. We would love to have women like you. I'm trying to choose 25 women who would love to transform their well-being by working their scars, understanding the benefit of scar work, not just by manual work, but in our 4 keystones: touch, nourish, move, and breathe. All right, I'll leave it there for now. I will see you tomorrow, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.